Once you figure out video production and you know how to make it engaging, a subject matter expert, a surgeon or a doctor or an engineer they can say a lot more than they would ever be able to produce with the written word. Ultimately, you're producing more content, it's more engaging, preferred way that people consume. Like, they don't really want to read the thing that you wrote, but they're fine watching the video. And aside from that, if you manage to get that person over to other videos on your YouTube channel or your TikTok, your Instagram or whatever, now you can practically organically retarget them because they may forget about you. And then they see you again on the For You page the next time they go on to YouTube to watch something.
This is the Snowball Effect. You're listening to the Marketing Playbook series, presented by the Snowball Effect podcast. It's growth done right.
Hey, I'm Todd, and welcome to the Snowball Effect. This is our Marketing Playbook series, and I'm really excited today. I've got Frank Olivo, and he is the CEO of Sagapixel. They're an agency that really helps people out with their digital marketing. And welcome to the podcast, Frank. It's great to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited and looking forward to our interview.
Well, I'm really excited to pick your brain. But before I do that, let me get to know you just a little bit. Can you tell our audience just something unique or something interesting that they may not have expected, to hear about Frank?
So I was a high school teacher for over a decade before coming back to marketing. I started this in 1998, changed majors halfway through college after working at a marketing agency for 2 years, and then got back into it in around 2008 and eventually changed careers back into doing marketing. Here I'm the CEO of an agency.
So from high school teaching to marketing, what grades did you teach?
High school, so mostly freshmen and sophomores, but I also did teach some juniors and seniors.
Oh, that's fantastic. What subjects?
Spanish and Italian.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
world languages.
That's fantastic. So from teaching to marketing, tell me a little bit about that journey. What pivots you from one over to the other?
We could probably do an entire episode just talking about that, but it was really something that through all the things that I had going on, like the freelance clients that I had and just the other things that I was doing outside of work, I honestly started to enjoy doing that a lot more than going to school every day. And then I had the opportunity to go work doing Google Ads, and I decided to go for it, change careers.
What a great change. And it's such a unique change. So I'm really excited, though, to pick the marketing part of your brain. As I've gotten to know you, I just realized this guy really knows what he's talking about. And I can't wait to share this conversation with our audience. But first, tell me just a little bit about what you're doing there at Sagapixel and how are you helping companies out?
Sure. So we work primarily with companies that are in healthcare. So we work with a lot of home care agencies, aesthetics, so that's anywhere from like medical weight loss to med spas to plastic surgeons. We have clients, we have urgent cares and so forth that we work with, but we also do have a solar company that we work with. We have clients that are not only in healthcare, but pretty much everyone are small to medium-sized businesses. We have one Fortune 500 client that we work with. We have a brand of theirs that's within healthcare that we work with. But for the most part, we're dealing with small businesses that are targeting local intent searches. And there's a lot of overlap between them, but there's also a lot of peculiarities about their industries, for example, that we'll probably get into.
I want to put a pin in that because I'm going to circle back to that. But I want to ask specifically, what is it about Sagapixel that you do differently? What really makes you stand out? Because there's quite a few agencies out there that try to stay on the forefront of the digital marketing world. But tell me what makes your folks unique.
So on the SEO side, I think there are two things. One is I think that our team does an exceptionally good job of on-page SEO, like entity optimization. And that ends up resulting in really easy, fast wins for a lot of these companies that we're working with, in particular like med spas. I've found, and the home care agencies for that matter, it can be very easy to get those websites ranking in local markets just through on-page SEO. The kind of stuff that would be table stakes for you to rank for, let's say, a car accident lawyer or
Hmm.
something, a dentist in a very competitive market, often is not getting done in most markets for med spas and home care and whatnot. So it can be easy, and we do a really good job there. The other thing is, I believe in the content repurposing model that exists with social media, and we've plugged in SEO into all of that.
Let's tap there just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm super intrigued. So, explain to our audience, if anyone isn't familiar, when you say content repurposing, what do you mean there? And then I want to get right back to what you're explaining about infusing the SEO into that.
Yeah, so the whole idea with content repurposing is that you produce one piece of content, and but you do so in a way that's going to allow you to distribute it through all kinds of different channels. So in in many cases, you'll find someone that shoots a YouTube video that, like, let's say a 3 to 5 minute YouTube video, and then they'll take 30 to 60-second snippets from that, edit in a way where now this works for TikTok or for Instagram Reels, or they may actually take that same thing, share a snippet of it, like a 15-second part of it on their LinkedIn, have an entire LinkedIn post about it, and then link to the YouTube video to entice people to want to watch the entire thing. But the whole idea is to shoot one piece of content and then, or create one piece of content and then edit it in a way that it can be appropriately consumed and distributed through other channels. Now, whenever you talk about this stuff, they only talk about it within the context of social media. Like, I record a podcast and then I'm going to take that podcast and turn it into a YouTube video and turn it into a YouTube short and a TikTok video and whatever. What I was getting at is producing our quote unquote SEO content, our blog content, not starting off necessarily with the written word, but actually starting off with producing an outline that would have been what we would have used. We would have passed to a writer on Upwork or someone on the marketing team or whatever, but actually shooting video with a subject matter expert, following that outline, pushing that out onto YouTube, doing all the content redistribution and repurposing that you would have done anyway, but then also taking that, turning into a transcript, optimizing that for search, and basically doing your blog content through video.
Ooh, that's very intriguing. So rather than sometimes just driven by sheer trying to reduce production costs or expenses, the mentality is great, I'm going to create one piece of content and then micro pieces of content that I can blast to all these social media platforms, just like you said. You're saying not just on the social side, but with an emphasis on SEO. Start with the video and then end with the SEO created content, your articles, your blog posts, things like that. So you're
Yep.
getting even more out of this content by starting video first. I find that really intriguing. Why focus on video first?
The brain processes, I'm going to put my teacher hat back on. So when I was a teacher, we talked a lot about how the brain processed the information that we were delivering to the students. The way that your brain processes a 2D black and white image versus a 3D image versus video is very different, and it creates neural pathways in a very different way. And I think all of this, we all intuitively know this. Basically, video is more engaging. When people land on an article, at best, they scan the headlines, they find the part that they're interested in, and they read that part. You really can't do that very easily with video, first of all. So people are consuming more of what you're actually producing than when you write, first of all. Second of all, it's more engaging. Honestly, your brain processes it differently. So that blog post about the different types of lenses that can be implanted after cataract surgery, that article, nobody's coming away from that with any idea about that eye doctor's practice or who he is or anything about that, the way that they are when they Googled what are the types of lenses I can get after cataract surgery. And then there's a video and they're actually listening to the surgeon talk for 3 minutes. They're going to come away with an idea of who this person is, what the practice is about, what it would be like, whether they would like going to them or not, in a way that's never going to happen with a blog post.
I love that, all the way from how our brain works and how it actually takes information in to just the actual consuming habits that we have, right? I mean, we see it. This is totally anecdotal, but we see it in the way that people binge Netflix. We see it in my kids. They spend more time on YouTube than they do anywhere else. And that makes a ton of sense. Are you seeing what I am, which is on search results pages even? I'm seeing more video content than ever before that Google is funneling up to people. So it seems to me like they're seeing the same thing that you are.
Yeah, I think that if when you have SERPs where people are clicking on the videos, where because Google's systems are trying to figure out what people want when they perform the search, do they want a video? Do they want an article? Do they want a listicle? Do they want a loan guide? Do they want a service page? I think more and more times they're finding that in it, but even when they're not, what's happening is you're ranking that transcript of that video in organic search, and then you're getting the person's clicking through because we're still all primed to Google stuff. Just enter it into the search bar in Safari if you're on an iPhone, and you're in the search results. But frankly, you don't want to read anything. You
Right.
prefer to watch the video. That is really what we're doing here. We're delivering it in a format that people prefer, that's more engaging, that says more about who the person is and the provider is. But let's even go even a little bit further with this. It's easier. Once you figure out video production and you know how to make it engaging, a subject matter expert, a surgeon or a doctor or an engineer they can say a lot more than they would ever be able to produce with the written word. Ultimately, you're producing more content, it's more engaging, it's the preferred way that people consume. Like they don't really want to read the thing that you wrote, but they're fine watching the video. And aside from that, if you manage to get that person over to other videos on your YouTube channel or your TikTok or your Instagram or whatever, now you can practically organically retarget them because they may forget about you. And then they see you again on the For You page the next time they go on to YouTube to watch something. So there's just so many benefits and practically no downsides to having a video first strategy when it comes to producing your quote unquote SEO content.
That's fantastic. I find that really intriguing. Help me understand. I'm going to throw a little curveball at you here, Frank. If you're a CMO out there and you're like, great, okay, Q3 is about ready to start. I've got to lay out my content strategy for rest of the year. Where would they start if they wanted to be a video first? Let's say they've been writing content and they've been doing all this time and they're like, Frank, okay, great. I need to go video first. Where in the world would they start?
Oh, that's super easy. First step is go to your blog, go to your Google Search Console. What's getting traffic? I would also look at my CRM if I have any data on what's converted in the past. Great. If you've gotten some leads, I guarantee you can get more if you have video at the top of those blogs. So I would start with those articles, the ones that are getting traffic, that are driving qualified. No, let me back up. The ones that are driving qualified traffic, because you almost certainly, you CMO, can go to your Google Search Console, look at the top 10 articles, and odds are you have a few in there that have zero possibility of ever driving you a qualified lead. It's almost vanity metrics of the traffic that you're driving to it. And I wouldn't spend any time there. But the ones that are driving qualified traffic, I would start with the one that's getting the most traffic. And I would take that same outline that you used for that. I would sit down with a subject matter expert from your company that knows how to talk to people and shoot video basically that's following that same exact outline, upload it to YouTube, get it embedded in the article, have a good call to action that's calling out like a playlist or related videos that you have, or you have some sort of like resource that people can download, but they need to watch at the end of the video in order to be able to do that. Make sure you have that as part of the content, and then rinse and repeat.
Marketers out there, okay, listen up, because Frank just laid out a perfect game plan to get started. Go into your search console, look at the top trafficked pages, look at those that are actually driving leads, pull in a subject matter expert from your org that knows that content that's driving that high intention lead, and then put a camera in front of them, pull out everything from their brain, get it onto video, and then put that video everywhere that you can. That seems like
Yep.
a pretty straightforward approach to getting started right away. Thank you. That was fantastic. Anything you would add on there as a little gravy on top?
So as a CMO, one of the big problems you're going to have is going to be getting buy-in within the organization. And there are a couple things you need to know. First is that your first 50 videos are going to be bad. You're going to need, you have to climb cringe mountain.
I can
Climb
attest
it.
to that. I can attest to that. We have a whole season of our video podcast that we just scratched our head and went, oh, our mics are bad, our sound's bad. I can attest to that.
They're going to be boring. There's going to be a lot of, you're not going to write your masterpiece the first time you sit down in front of the piano. You need to put out a lot of bad content, and then it's going to slowly not be bad anymore, and it's going to be mediocre, and then it's going to get okay. And after you do a lot of them, you're going to start putting out some that are good. And a lot of the time, that means you're going to go back to those initial cringy videos, and you're going to do the same topic a year and a half later, but this time you're going to do it better. And your company is going to build the internal capability of putting out interesting content for people eventually. And eventually, after you put out enough of these, it's going to become an advantage. It's going to be a moat that you have because you're going to be capable of putting out interesting content, and none of your competitors are going to be able to. And they're going to be looking at what you're doing, and their CMOs are going to be under pressure to say, why is so and so able to put out this great stuff and we look like a bunch of amateurs? The answer is that you climbed cringe mountain, and they're at the bottom of it still.
You climbed cringe mountain. I could not love that answer more. If you don't look back on your content a year later and cringe, it probably means you weren't being vulnerable enough, you weren't taking enough risk, and you weren't trying to just get out there and stretch your skill set. I can absolutely attest to that. So be willing to climb cringe mountain. I'm going to steal that from you, Frank. That's fantastic. So let me pivot just a little bit. You mentioned earlier that you're working with several different industries, right? Help me understand just a little bit how your marketing approach might change industry to industry.
So, tying together what we were just talking about, content repurposing. A lot of the clients that we work with are in aesthetic medicine. We work with a lot of plastic surgeons, medical spas that also do like hormone replacement treatment and Botox and medical weight loss and so forth. And in their case, people have lots of questions. There's a couple aspects here. First of all, they have lots of questions about everything. Like, no one is going to get on Ozempic or Wegovy without Googling 20,000 different questions. And there isn't a lot of content out there about this. Another thing about aesthetics is that they prefer video naturally. If you are, for example, doing a content strategy for a medical spa, you're going to have a lot of questions. You're going to want to show people what you're talking about. And everything that we were talking about earlier about content repurposing and video first is a must. If you're working with a solar company, first of all, lends itself a lot less to producing content that is educational. You're going to run out of stuff that you can do really quickly when it comes to solar. So the channels are going to have to lean possibly a little bit less on educational content and possibly more on entertainment content when it comes to your social, which is going to limit your ability to repurpose that content through organic search, like the stuff that we were talking about earlier. You also have other channels, like we do a lot of work with home care agencies, where social is almost untappable as a channel there. People aren't really particularly interested in following an unskilled home care agency. If what you're day in and day out preparing food, putting away the groceries and changing diapers, there's not a lot of stuff that you can that people are going to be interested in consuming content around. You'll even see, like in the real world, like home care agencies, you can take a $2 billion company like Bayada, look at their Instagram. Like, they'll put up a post and it'll get 17 likes. And if you look at the people that liked it, it's all people that worked there. So they're using those channels. Yeah, they're using it as like an internal staff engagement platform. But there's nobody out there that's just like a you or me. Because frankly, you and I are the target demographic. Like, my parents are in their 70s, and soon they're going to probably need assistance. And
That's
what
right.
are they going to produce that I'm going to be interested in engaging with realistically?
Somebody who's leading a company like that, where would you guide them to?
They really need to be focused on local SEO. The content marketing aspect that works for home care agencies is producing content that possibly answers the questions about paying for home care, if there are programs in certain states or cities that can help assist you with the payment. But that's pretty much it. If you are a home care agency and you produce 6 tips for watching after somebody with Alzheimer's, odds are you're a local company. And even if you did rank for that, you're going to get traffic from all over the country that you're never going to be able to convert. So it's probably a waste of time. No one is really interested in following you on your Instagram or Facebook page. So in those cases, really, it's won and lost in the map results and the blue links, like ranking for every type of way that people look for home care, which has its peculiarities too, because if you're doing SEO work for a dentist, there's a very finite number of ways that people are going to search for, I need a dentist. It's a short list. I can tell you, if you look at the search insights, the search queries reports in Google Ads, it is all over the place with home care. Nobody knows how to look for it. Is it senior companion for elderly? Home health aid, when in actuality, what they want is somebody just to sit with their mom and make sure she doesn't fall down. You have things like people looking for 24-hour care when in actuality they just want to be able to sleep at night, so they want overnight care. It's all over the place. So there are very significant challenges there that you just never encountered doing work for an orthodontist, for example.
That makes so much sense that if you're a CMO out there or you're a marketing director and you've got limited resources, you've got limited time, if you're trying to be on all these social platforms that just aren't conducive to your customer base, then you've got a little bit of butter trying to spread a whole lot of toast. And so picking someone's brain like yours and saying, okay, where should our efforts be allocated and our resources be allocated, I think is going to make all the difference. I want to pick your brain here for a second about something that you and I, everyone hears a lot about nowadays, and that's AI. We all feel the tectonic shift beneath our feet. We've all got our finger to the wind trying to figure out where this is going for the marketing world. How do you see AI? What role do you see it playing in marketing?
AI is best used to handle tedious, repetitive tasks. This isn't from me, but I've heard people disparagingly refer to AI as average intelligence, where basically it's taking the average intelligence that the world has about a topic and then delivering that to you. And I find it interesting that whenever everybody's impressed with AI content, if you're generating something with Gemini or ChatGPT, if it's a topic that they don't know a lot about, but ask it to write an article on something that you're an expert on and see how impressed you are. And the truth is that the way that a lot of people are trying to use it is to just spit out massive amounts of content about topics. And I've found that it doesn't do a great job of that. What I've found that it does do a good job of is the tedious part of tasks. So I need right now I assign somebody next week. We're going to be doing rewriting all the H tags on all of the service pages of a med spa in North Jersey. And what I instructed her to do is ask it to generate 15 of the 15 options that include like the target keyword in there. And one of them is going to be good. Maybe none of them are going to be good, but you're going to combine the half of this one, half of that one, and you'll get that out. It'll take no time for each page on this. If I had to ask a human being to sit down and write 15 options for H tags, there's a good chance that the same percentage are going to be garbage, and it's going to take them 2 hours to do. So what I think AI is going to be really good at is handling those tedious tasks like that for us, and then letting a human being look at it and bring it over the finish line. I don't think that it's going to entirely replace copywriters, because I can tell you, even we've been using AI to generate copy for our website. But first of all, if you want it to be good, you need to give it really precise instructions about what you want it to say, and the angle that it needs to take. And even after that, you still need to go back and edit what it did. My experience has been that it has taken out the tedium of any copywriting that we've done for our own website, for example, but it hasn't eliminated the human work. That you need an experienced human being to tell it like the direction that you need it to take with all of this.
I think that's really well said. And I love that focus on take out the tedious stuff. That's great news for marketers. These are the things we don't want to do. These are the things that hurt our brain or just numb our brain to do and we put off. So why not outsource that to our robot friends and just free up a little bit of that brain real estate on some of the more creative and just pick out options. I do love that as far as its ability to just create iterations for us, just options that we then
Mhm.
choose and we assemble and put together. And so I think that there's opportunity here, like you allude to, but we don't need to run for the hills. This is just another tool that we can pull out of our tool belt. So I love that response. This has been really, really helpful. In our last few minutes here, Frank, people come to you because you've got your finger on the pulse of what's happening now and what's happening down the line. Help us understand a little bit about some of the future trends of marketing that we need to be aware of.
I think that the future of marketing is going to continue to be social. I think a lot of it is going to be on social. I think that everything is going to start to get spread out a little bit more, meaning we've had clients that did very well through SEO because that was the way people found this product. But these days, actually, a lot of that buyer's journey is happening on Reddit. It's happening on YouTube with a lot of younger people. I've even found myself going straight to TikTok when what I wanted was a really short video explanation of how to do this thing. I didn't go to YouTube. So I think that you're going to find that search is going to end up getting spread out into more platforms and not just Google, but it's going to be for very specific applications. As people get more comfortable producing video, more and more of it's going to get produced, and a lot of the future's going to be with video. I do not believe that AI is going to take over the jobs of marketers. I think that AI is going to take over the job of mediocre to low performing marketers. I think that it can do a better job. AI can already do a better job than most mediocre marketing. But mediocre marketing never produced anyway. So if you're good at your job right now, you don't have anything to worry about. You should just be happy about what AI is going to be able to take off your plate. I also think that we need to make sure that we're constantly keeping an eye on where the attention is and not allow ourselves to fight the last war. And I think that a lot of the time you have brands that are late to the game because they're not paying attention to where the attention is. They'll say things like, oh, TikTok's just for, what were they saying 4 years ago? Oh, TikTok's just for teenagers and people doing dances. I'm not going to get on camera and do dances. The people that didn't say that are the ones that built up the massive audiences there. And now TikTok's a mature platform where it's a lot harder now to build that audience than it was 2 years ago.
I think that's really well said. We can't become what we used to laugh about our parents being, which is, oh, I don't want to carry a phone around. I want to talk to people face to face, kind of the get off my lawn type of approach. We can't be what we've laughed at in the past by just poo pooing these new technologies or the things like TikTok and whatnot. That I think that's some really fantastic advice. You've been very generous with your time today, Frank, and I really appreciate that. If somebody wants to keep this conversation going with you, they want to talk to you or someone from your team, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there every day. I answer all my DMs as long as I'm not getting some sort of pitch. Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best place. I'd also recommend if you liked this content, check out our YouTube channel because I dive into a lot of detail about several of the subjects that we talked about today.
Fantastic. Go look up Frank on LinkedIn. Go check out their YouTube channel to see more of their fantastic content. Frank, it's been great today having this nice conversation. You helped sharpen my saw quite a bit, just bouncing ideas off of you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining the Snowball Effect podcast today.
And thanks for having me, Todd. It was great.
Thank you so much for joining the Snowball Effect. This has been our marketing playbook series, and we'll see you next time.